Surrender. This is a word that is used many, many times through the spiritual and self-development communities. So what does it take for you to surrender? When is the calling so great to surrender our will to the will of the divine or the universe? When we are going through times of change, chaos, upheaval, transitions, awakening, we must totally surrender our will to the will of the divine. Now, this is a very difficult task and it requires a lot of faith. Faith in yourself as a unique spiritual being, and faith in the greater power, the greater source, that you are divinely guided, that you have a destiny and a life purpose in this lifetime, and that what is happening, external and internal, is for your highest good. Now, sometimes we are required to act. A lot of times we are required to act. But there are times in our life when we have to surrender. There are times in our life when we have to quiet the mind and really tune in to what our intuition is guiding us to do. This is the act of surrender. Now, we can only surrender once we identify the difference between ego and intuition. When we are going through times of change, the ego gets louder. The ego takes over, only if you allow it to. So how do we identify when the ego is talking or when the intuition is talking? The ego will sound something like, I should be doing this. I can't believe this is happening to me. Why me? What am I going to do? I should do this. Maybe I should do that. And it will come in the voice of control, of urgency. It will come in the voice of criticism, cynicism, judgment, fear, attachment. It will come in the voice of fearing like it is losing a part of its identity, as ego is totally associated with your identity, how you show up in this world, what makes you who you are through your personality. So once we identify this voice getting louder, and we can hear these thoughts running through our mind, we can associate these thoughts with monkey mind. We know that monkey mind is a naughty part of our being that likes to run wild through these times. And we have to discipline and get the monkey mind to work for us, to become our servant, not our master. Now, if we can become aware of when our ego is talking through any of these ways that I've just stated, then we can become more aware that it is only the ego that is in the fear. And then once we identify it, we bring that awareness to the egoic mind, thought patterns, beliefs, words, actions. Then we can let go, move away from the idea of fear of the ego, and move into this peaceful, calming energy of surrender. Surrendering the resistance that you may have been holding onto through the ego, and surrendering to the perfection of your life. Surrendering to the belief that whatever is happening to you is happening for your highest good. Once we surrender the fear, the judgment, the cynicism, and all of those things that I mentioned before, we move into a different state of consciousness. And in this consciousness, there is faith and trust that everything is just happening harmoniously. Remember that we are spiritual beings that move through this body. We enter this body, this personality, this being, this human being, as a life lesson We are not to hate the ego. We are not to ignore the ego. We need the ego to learn from for our soul growth. But we cannot let the ego control us. That is the problem. We have to control the ego, not the other way round. So only when you identify when the voice of the ego is loud, and you identify in how the ego is working in whatever situation you're presented with, can you step back, move out of those feelings that are causing you probably a lot of pain and suffering, and move into total trust. Trust and faith is the essence of the true self. Trust and faith is the essence of your soul. When we take life seriously and we become sucked into the drama and the roller coaster of life, we suffer. We have to move away from that and into faith and trust so that we stay open to all possibilities. So what I want to talk to you about today about surrender is, say over here you're losing something, you're going through change. So this is your change. You're losing an old relationship, a career, a project, a home. Something is changing and it is bringing about an energy of loss. The ego will grieve the loss. The ego will feel in lack, because something has been taken out of its knowingness. Okay, so whatever was there was making the ego feel secure, was making the ego have a sense of identity. Once you take that away, the ego feels anxious, unstable. There's instability there. There's a threat to the ego's survival. Okay, so that is what the ego is doing: clinging, grieving, playing victim, trying to fix it, trying to hold on, attaching. But over here, the universe is opening up this new space, because when something falls away, something else is always opening up. If you can think about it, that when something plays a big part in your life, it takes up a lot of space in your life. And you only have so much space, and it falls away. Think of the space that is opening up for you to fill. So all of the things that are waiting for you over here, that the universe is offering you as a gift, you are ignoring the positive and focusing on the negative. Every time something falls away from your life, there is always something to replace it. It is the essence of life, the death and rebirth cycle. Constant endings, new beginnings, endings, new beginnings. That is the cycle of life. But the ego, no matter how many times it happens to the ego, which it happens so many times in one's human life, human existence, we still cling to the loss. So this is where we are in a total test of faith. When we go through such big changes in our life that affect our sense of security and our sense of identity, these are the most greatest spiritual evolution experiences. Because through this loss, through this change, you evolve into higher states of consciousness if you surrender your will to the will of the divine. And this may occur to you right now if you're experiencing change. We are moving through eclipse season. So eclipse season always brings about a lot of abrupt endings and change and quick movements. And eclipse season is all about guiding you back onto your divine path. Okay, so if you've steered off the path, maybe through the motives of the ego, through the motives of the monkey mind, the universe is quickly moving you back into alignment. So really, what's going on in the unseen is for your highest good. What is going on in the unseen is probably an answered prayer. But we cannot seem to see that when we're in the clouded vision and mind of the ego. So In times of change, this is your greatest test of surrender. This is where you can practice your faith in yourself, in your unique path, and in the trust of the universe. So I ask you, if you're going through change and you need to embody and practice the act of surrender, find stillness. Little moments of presence and stillness will help you to quiet the monkey mind and move into the peace of your inner sanctuary, as I like to call it, your inner space. And in your inner space will be your intuition. But you will never be able to hear the words and the voice of your intuition if this is very loud. You will constantly be led by the monkey mind, but you need to quiet this, come back to presence, practice meditation. It may take some time to really quiet the mind down, but eventually you'll be able to hold this space of inner stillness and stay open so that the voice of the intuition can move through you. Other ways to do this is through writing. Writing I find very powerful for connecting to my intuition, because what you can do with writing, journaling, is you can write down all your fears to kind of get that junk that's in your head, that egoic junk, into paper. And then once you've released those thoughts, those feelings, you can start to open up a space to ask the question, what am I being asked to do at this time? Not out of a sense of urgency, resistance, or fear, not out of the voice or the comfort of the ego. What is my soul wanting me to do in this moment? How do you want me to act? How do you want me to think? What do you want from me in this moment? Surrender the will, open it up, ask for signs. This is how we surrender to the divine. Thank you.